Hey guys, welcome back. I want to run through some data here that was just released from Data for Progress. This is a poll out of the state of Nevada for their caucus that is upcoming here this weekend on Saturday, but they're also doing early voting for their caucus as well. And I just hope that things run a little bit more smoothly in Nevada than what we had in Iowa. I'm setting my expectations fairly low so I don't have the kind of disappointment that we had to go through with Iowa in just the utter disaster that ended up being. We'll see if the Nevada caucus can be a little bit more in the way of returning to normalcy, but we'll see if they're up to the task. So some interesting data here to go through, and if you're interested in looking at all of this data for yourself, I'll have a link posted down in the video description to this article. I'm not sure where I'm at right now in terms of my final predictions when I make that video, probably either on Thursday or Friday. I feel pretty confident in my top overall selection of Bernie Sanders. He is very strong in this poll, leading the way, a significant gap between himself and the rest of the field where he's bringing in 35 percentage points. But behind Bernie Sanders, it almost feels like you can blindfold yourself and throw a dart at a dartboard without being able to see, and whatever it sticks with, maybe that's who ends up getting second place, because it just seems extremely muddled, competitive between the rest of the field, between Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Joe Biden, Tom Steyer, and Amy Klobuchar. You could make a reasonable argument for any of them potentially getting second place in this Nevada caucus. It's going to be fascinating to see how things close out and who actually ends up being the top competitor with Bernie Sanders, or if anyone's even able to get close to what the support that Sanders might be getting in the state. And what's kind of interesting here, the first two states of Iowa and New Hampshire, very homogenous, very white in population, not a whole lot in the way of the minority communities. But that changes as we move our way out to Nevada. That should likely benefit Bernie Sanders, who has done really well with Hispanic voters. That is an important voting block that you're going to get in the Nevada caucus. That should likely boost his chances at potentially going on and winning this one. But to work our way through the rest of the top line of this poll, so again, Bernie Sanders at 35%, Elizabeth Warren in second place, 19 percentage points back at 16%. And then you have Pete Buttigieg at 15, Joe Biden at 14. And then the rest of the field, you have Tom Steyer at 10, Klobuchar at 9, and Tulsi Gabbard at 2 percentage points. And when we take a look at how this breaks up among different demographics, so age-wise, under 45, 64% going for Bernie Sanders, absolutely crushing it. Warren there at 14, and then Buttigieg, he's the younger candidate running here, but he continues to struggle getting support among younger voters, where he's only grabbing 7% in this instance, which is actually the same that Joe Biden is getting among those voters who are under the age of 45. And then over the age of 45, it gets much more competitive, where you have Sanders at the top at 21, Warren at 17, Buttigieg at 18, Joe Biden also there at 17 percentage points. Now, in terms of education, no college education, you have Sanders at 39, Warren at 12, Buttigieg at 14, Biden at 15. College educated, you have Sanders at 27, Warren at 22, Buttigieg at 15, and Biden at 13. And then the demographics of Hispanic voters, and again, like I said, this is likely to be a coalition of voters that should boost Sanders' chance out west in a state like Nevada. He's grabbing 66% of the Hispanic or Latina vote. The other candidates not getting much in the way of support from those particular constituents, but then the white vote a bit more competitive, where you have Sanders at 28, Warren at 18, along with Pete Buttigieg, and then Biden at 12 percentage points. And with ideology, very liberal is 54% behind Sanders with 23 for Warren. Somewhat liberal is 31 for Sanders, 18 for Warren, 17 for Buttigieg, 15 for Biden. And then moderate, this is where actually Joe Biden leads the pack at 23%, and then followed by Sanders at 20, Buttigieg at 18, and Warren at just 7% with that constituency. So then we go down and take a look at the favorable, unfavorable of these candidates among the caucus goers in Nevada, and Sanders leads the way with the highest total number of favorable at 68, followed by Warren, who's at 65, and then Tom Steyer actually there at 59%. And Steyer, he has a possibility to potentially finish in the top three, given how significantly he has gone all in Nevada, trying to have success in the state. He spent a lot of money on advertising. We'll see how far that gets him, but it seems to be a boost, at least in terms of his favorability numbers in the state, at 59. And then Klobuchar at 55, Buttigieg at 54, Biden at 48. Michael Bloomberg, a tough sign for him here at 32% compared to 48 who are unfavorable. Also not great unfavorable numbers there for Biden at 50%. And then Tulsi Gabbard, really poor favorable, unfavorable numbers where she's 14% favorable compared to 52% unfavorable. And then in terms of Medicare for All and a Green New Deal, these Nevada caucus goers are 69% in favor of Medicare for All, which should be a net benefit for Bernie Sanders as well as Elizabeth Warren. And then they're 93% in favor of the Green New Deal. So there's definitely a lot of support for those progressive policy positions among these individuals that were polled, which is net benefiting Bernie, who's at the top line there, with 35% of support as the first choice. So really interested to see how this caucus ends up going. And you're likely to get a situation where these caucus sites, Sanders is going to be getting past that 15 percentage point threshold. So he's likely to be safe in that instance with his supporters getting to stay with him. But these other candidates, Warren, Buttigieg, Biden, Steyer, Klobuchar, they could all have their issues in potentially reading that 15% viability. And at that point, you can have the option to go to a second choice among the candidates who are viable. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that dynamic plays out in Nevada in contrast to what we saw in Iowa, where it was more of a net benefit for Pete Buttigieg. But we'll see how the voters in Nevada end up divvying themselves up among the rest of the candidates that end up reaching that threshold 15% of support. It's going to be some interesting stuff. So I appreciate you guys stopping by. I'm going to continue to be making a ton of content surrounding not just the Nevada caucus, but all of the caucuses and primaries going forward throughout 2020 primary season. So consider subscribing for more. Hope to see you back here for my next video.